as celebrities become even more political on the climate, it's easier than ever to be branded as a hypocrite. And it pains me to say this, as I am one of her biggest fans, but there have been some eyebrows raised this week as global megastar Taylor Swift reportedly sent her private plane from Sydney to Hawaii to pick up her boyfriend Travis Kelsey and bring him back to Sydney. It's the latest in a long line of celebrities called out for their use of private jets. And it begs the question, is it time to ban them for good? Now, Bill Gates, who wrote the book How to Avoid a Climate Disaster, owns 4 private planes. But he says flying on a private jet doesn't make him part of the problem because he invests billions of dollars into fighting climate change. Here he is last year, challenged on this point by the BBC.
You actually mentioned your use of a private jet. Let me put it to you directly. What do you say to the charge that if you are a climate change campaigner, but you also travel around the world on a private jet, you're a hypocrite?
Well, I buy the gold standard of funding Climeworks to do direct air capture that far exceeds my family's carbon footprint. And I spend billions of dollars on climate innovation. So, should I stay at home and not come to Kenya and learn about farming and malaria?
Oprah Winfrey is also a big contributor to CO2 emissions, even though her website has frequently included articles campaigning to fight climate change. Now, a UK marketing agency called Yard published an article in 2022 on which celebrities emit the most through their private jets, of which Oprah features. The billionaire came in 9th place after emitting nearly 3.5 tonnes of CO2 from her private jet in the year alone, which was 68 flights, nearly 500 times more than the average person's total annual emissions. One of her flights included a 14-minute flight from Van Nuys in California to Santa Barbara. Director Steven Spielberg is another top offender. His jet took 61 flights this year and emitted nearly 4,500 tonnes of CO2. But he claimed in 2018, "I'm terrified of global warming. Global warming is a scientific reality. It's not a political trick. It's a true piece of real, measurable, quantifiable science." And of course, we can't forget Meghan and Prince Harry, who, while claiming to be environmentalists, used a private plane this month to fly to Jamaica for the premiere of the Bob Marley film. I'll start with you, Steve. Is this just hypocritical? Is it plain and simple?
Yeah. How could it be anything else? I understand the argument, and the argument could go like this. If I use my private jet to fly to a conference to tell people to use less CO2, I'll be in profit. But you know what would be even better? Not using your flight to do that. Plus, it's low-hanging fruit for people to argue about that rather than talk about any serious issue. The only argument for it would be if you are Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
You're allowed to ruin the planet, aren't you? There are some people who are so the top of their game that they can just send flights around just because they enjoy it.
I mean, we'll start with you, Reem. You get into...
Well, look, Taylor Swift has been writing about her failed love life for so many years. Let's let her see her boyfriend in Sydney, for goodness sake.
It won't last.
Look, we'll see.
We'll get
another
serious
album.
offence to that.
We'll get another album out of it if it doesn't last, so maybe...
Exactly, everyone wins.
Everyone wins. Obviously, we should not be banning private jets, and we should not be telling people what they can and cannot do with their own travel plans. People like Bill Gates, in my opinion, are absolute hypocrites, and for him to sort of sit there and virtue signal effectively and say, well, look, yes, I fly on all these private jets, but I spend so much money going to Kenya and telling all these people to stop using all of these energy bills. And I'm just like, no, that's just not true. First of all, if we want to actually fight climate change, the solution for it is technological advancements. It's allowing the free market to work. It's effectively saying, hold on a minute, the best way for us to reduce CO2 emissions is by allowing businesses to find more efficient ways to do things. Best way to do that is competition and choice. That's how we saw in the US with the introduction of the coal and steel community and the way in which they impacted the transition to different energy uses that were much more efficient. We can actually also look at, to fight climate change, things like clean tax cuts. There are real policy changes that will effectively mean that we can allow for more technological advancements to occur. By banning things and telling people what they can and cannot do, we are effectively telling them that we're restricting their own freedom. And I think that that's wrong in itself.
Reem, she needs to get into politics immediately. I want to get your thoughts on this, Steve, because Bill Gates does make a point that I think a lot of people would probably try and say is the way they think works. he spends all this money, he invests money into research and fighting climate change, as he says. He would be one of the top spenders in the world in doing so. Does he then have the right to kind of pick and choose where he's contributing to the catastrophe?
I see what you mean. Well, I suppose he does have the right. Everyone has the right to be hypocrites. It's just that we have the right to point and go, hypocrites. And also for private jets. That hits me a bit like, one, how do you need... I'm a bloke. I don't even have that many pairs of shoes because you can only wear one at once. This guy's got 4 private jets. So, yes, he's got the right to pick and choose, but we get to call him out for this, definitely. And if he did more, yes, you spend all those billions, but if you had 3 private jets, then you'd be helping the planet even more. Trim out the number of private jets, Bill.
Well, I'm going to say, because add to that, so Bill Gates absolutely has the right to have 4 private jets and jet around the world and tell people, whatever it is that he wants to talk to people about. He doesn't have the right to tell other people that they need to reduce their carbon emissions.
Yeah.
And I think that's the real crux of the issue here. He goes around telling people that they need to reduce their carbon emissions, that they need to introduce these new advancements, they need to be cleaner, and effectively restricting energy supply, which just makes people poorer. Let's be honest about that. We saw in the UK with some of the cancelling of the North Sea oil licenses. When we're restricting energy supply, we're making energy much more expensive for the poorest in society. So Bill Gates is a hypocrite. He can do what he wants, he can jet around, but he can't tell the people that they need to reduce their carbon emissions when he has 4 private jets.
I disagree.
Oh, come on, get into it.
Like previously, you were saying you're a free speech absolutist.
Absolutely.
So he has the right to be wrong. He has the right to tell people to cut back, and we go, no, because you've got 4 private jets.
Okay, he can tell them that they need to cut back. He can't have power and control and government policy, which then ends up restricting energy supply. And that's my problem here. People like Bill Gates perpetuate this idea that the government need to be intervening in climate change. The government need to be telling people that they need to be reducing their energy use. And I think it's actually quite offensive for him to go to African countries and tell them that they need to be becoming more environmentally friendly.
You boiled it down to his opinion and then said he shouldn't have that opinion. He can have the opinion. It's up to us to vote for a government that would ignore him if that's what you want.
But the point is, people like Bill Gates and lobby governments for those changes, and that's the problem. Look,
then you need to change the lobby system.
Well,
look, if Bill Gates had that much power, we'd all be using the Edge browser by now, because my word, they keep trying to plug that.
He's also not, helping the UK government out. He's obviously based in the US. But I want to end on this note, and I want a straight answer from you both. Should private jets be banned for celebrities' use?
no.
No, because one day I might get there and use one. Come on, you never know.
Keep dreaming.
And let's see if Taylor Swift gets us a nice new album after this lovely relationship.
I won't even comment. She can do whatever she wants in my eyes. And I, being from Sydney, have done that flight that many times, and it is brutal. And I'm back of the cabin, right where the food is served. So
You can't blame her.
I can't blame her.